Thanks, Gabi. Yes, this evening, not for the first time, we discuss the situation of Mumia Abu Jamal. This is an issue that is dear to our heart for a number of reasons. Mumia Abu Jamal was a victim of the most appalling injustice. He was accused of a murder he never committed, and indeed this was borne out by witness statements, including witness statements from police officers. He spent years on death row. There was a campaign carried out by Democrats and progressives across the world managed to get him off death row. At the last minute, he's in another prison in Pennsylvania, but the conditions in which he's being held, and indeed his health, are extremely worrying. So that's what we're going to be discussing this evening, because I think we can organize joint initiatives to get him out of the hell in which he finds himself. I mean, it's one thing to have got him out of death row, but we can't allow him to rot in prison and die there in the prison where he is today. It's a great pleasure to welcome Robert Boyle, his lawyer, who's doing sterling work. He did a great job already. He's involved in submitting a new sets of conclusions and new papers for the court. We've also got with us our friend Robert Miropol, who is the son of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, who were executed in 1953 following on a most unjust court case. Allegedly they were Soviet spies, and he's involved in a general fight for justice and is involved with the liberation of Mumia, and also, of course, for his wife to be cleared because she was innocent. We also got Niall Fort, a theology researcher, who is also a member of Mumia's support committee in the United States, and he's involved and is also involved in Black Lives. So it'd be great to hear from our two Roberts. Perhaps they could share their views and feelings, and of course it'll be great to hear from Niall as well.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here, and it's even more of an honor to be here as the attorney for Mumia Abu Jamal. Mumia Abu Jamal is serving a sentence of life without parole for a crime that he did not commit. It was an international movement many of you were aware of, if not a part of, that prevented him from being executed for a crime he did not commit. And while we were able to stop the death penalty, he is still serving a sentence of life without parole. But now, the prison system, the state of Pennsylvania, is trying to kill him again, this time through medical neglect. Because you see, Mumia Abu Jamal is afflicted with the virus hepatitis C. We discovered this back in 2012. The disease, which sometimes can take over 30 years before you develop symptoms, and it's likely he contracted it in 1981 when he was shot by police and received a blood transfusion. He started developing symptoms in 2014, manifesting itself in a horrible rash that keeps him up 24/7, itching, and deterioration of his liver. But you see, also, there is a cure now for hepatitis C. There are drugs which have a 90 to 95% chance of eradicating the virus from someone's body. But in the United States, and I'm speaking now not only of Pennsylvania but across the country, prisoners by and large, and there's some states that are doing it, but by and large are not being given this medication. Mumia Abu Jamal is not being given this medication. The prison system in Pennsylvania has over 5,000 prisoners who are afflicted with active chronic hepatitis C. They are only treating 50. At this rate, it would take over 100 years to treat everyone in that system. The situation is critical because Mumia's health is deteriorating. I'm one of the attorneys in a federal lawsuit in the United States District Court seeking an injunction requiring that the state of Pennsylvania give him this treatment. Just 2 weeks ago, a judge agreed with us in terms of stating that the failure to give him this medication falls below the standard of care guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution, and I would submit also international law. But the judge refused to issue an injunction on technical grounds. So although we are still fighting to get that injunction through the court, it is critical that people from around the world demand that Mumia, and in fact everyone afflicted with this disease, is provided with this cure. So what can this body do, both individually and collectively? One, I think that a formal request should be made, either individually or as a body, to meet with the governor of the state of Pennsylvania. And at that meeting, to request or demand, or however you'd want to put it, that Mumia and others be provided with this life-saving medication. If the governor refuses to meet, send a request in writing that he should be provided with this medication. But I would also tell you the simple fact of making a request would be a big help, as it puts pressure on the government of Pennsylvania. You can request to speak to the ambassador from the United States to the European community, to question the ambassador as to why prisoners in the United States are not being provided with this medication. There can be a petition filed, for example, in the Human Rights Council in Geneva on behalf of Mumia and others, brought as maybe a friend of the council or a friend of the court on behalf of this body or individuals from this body. If such a thing is filed, the United States would be forced to answer in writing as to why prisoners are being denied this life-saving medication. There is another aspect to this. In the U.S., this medication is incredibly expensive because of our patent laws. It costs over $84,000 per person to be administered this drug. And that's because there is a monopoly by the drug companies. So one other thing that could be done is that this body or individuals from this body should demand of the drug companies, and its name is Gilead, Gilead, to stop charging these exorbitant amounts of funds for this life-saving medication. It is really a scandal. It's an embarrassment that my government allows this to happen in this day and age. So these are Mumia's current situation. There's some of the things that could be done. Myself and those of us involved would be happy to provide you with whatever information we can in writing. We can communicate or answer any of your questions. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to address you all today. I speak to you as the child of two people who were executed when I was 6 years old. I got involved in the case of Mumia Abu Jamal when I realized over 20 years ago that he was the first political prisoner in the United States to face execution since my parents. And to add to what Robert said, I support Mumia because Mumia is the voice of the voiceless. Through his resistance and writing, Mumia has gained more attention for other prisoners than almost anybody else in the United States. True, the millions imprisoned in my country have not received enough attention. But that is not Mumia's fault. He is their champion, and those seeking to silence him know it. There is more than one way to kill a person in prison. You don't need a barbaric execution. You can let someone die from medical neglect. We can't let that happen to Mumia. We must support his efforts to obtain medical care, an effort he is taking not only on behalf of himself, but on behalf of thousands of other prisoners in Pennsylvania who are being denied adequate medical care. Mumia speaks for them all. And just as he asserts his solidarity with them, it is our job to act in solidarity with him. And that's why we are here and ask you to join us. But I also have another reason for speaking to you tonight. In the last year, new evidence has emerged that my mother, Ethel Rosenberg, was not a spy. This has caused my brother and I to initiate a petition campaign asking or demanding that the Obama administration, before Obama leaves office, exonerate my mother. Why is this so important today, over 60 years after she was killed? The government of the United States has never admitted that it executed an innocent person. An admission that it executed an innocent woman for political purposes would help all of today's death row prisoners, some 3,000 of them or more, some of whom are innocent. So I ask you to do one simple thing with regards to my mother, and that is to visit the website of the Rosenberg Fund for Children, a foundation that I founded in 1990 to provide for the educational and emotional needs of the children of targeted activists in the United States, to visit their website, which is very simple, rfc.org, and there you will see obvious directions to sign that petition. Particularly as members of the Parliament, you have moral authority and a lot of force, and this will make a tremendous difference to us. Once again, I thank you for allowing me to address you.
Recht herzlichen Dank, sowohl für die Information als auch für diesen Appell. Und ich bin mir sicher, dass wir heute Abend noch die Gelegenheit nutzen werden, um die Website aufzusuchen der Foundation und uns mit den Informationen dort auch vertraut machen werden. Herzlichen Dank nochmal. Dann gebe ich das Wort an Niall. Ist das richtig? Niall Ford? Niall Ford. Ja, Dankeschön. Er bekommt jetzt ebenfalls das Wort. Bitte schön.
So I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me. Just for the next few minutes, I would like to talk to you about Black Lives Matter. First, what is Black Lives Matter? Black Lives Matter is a political, ideological, and cultural movement for the liberation of black people in the United States and throughout the world. Black Lives Matter began not only in response to the brutal killing of unarmed black teenager Michael Brown by white police officer Darren Wilson in Ferguson, Missouri, but it began really as a response to the pattern of police brutality that plagues Black and Latino communities in the United States. According to one report, every 28 hours in the United States of America, a Black person is killed either by a police officer or a vigilante. So what happened to Michael Brown in Ferguson is not an isolated incident, but it is protocol by many local police departments. A 7-year-old girl by the name of Ayanna Stanley Jones was sleeping on her aunt's couch when a Detroit police raid began to shoot into her aunt's house, eventually killing 7-year-old Ayanna as she tried to sleep. Tamir Rice was only 12 years old when he went to the park playing with a toy gun when the Cleveland police showed up and in less than 2 seconds took his life. So I live in a country where Black children, my nephews, my little brothers, can't sleep or play without fear of being killed by those who are sworn to protect and serve us. But I want to let you know that Black Lives Matter is about more than just fighting police brutality. Why? Because police brutality is only but one symptom of a deeper sickness that we could call institutionalized racism. It's really the tip of the iceberg, and there are many deeper structural issues that we also must address. I would like to talk briefly about two. One is prisons. So many of us know that the United States of America has a prison problem. The U.S. currently incarcerates more human beings than any other nation in human history. We have 5% of the world's population, but about 25% of the world's incarcerated population. 1 out of every 4 prisoners are incarcerated in an American jail, prison, or juvenile detention center. What does this have to do with Black Lives Matter? Well, prisons, like police, disproportionately and systematically affect Black Americans. So out of the 2.3 or so million people in United States prisons, about 1 million are Black. And so this is a problem that Black Lives Matter is also addressing. Another problem is poverty. The United States is often known as the richest nation on earth, but it is not that way for everybody. The United States currently has 400 billionaires and 45 million poor people. And these are not parallel facts, but they're intersecting facts. That means the United States of America has 400 billionaires because we have 45 million poor people. Now, what does this have to do with Black Lives Matter? Like policing and like prisons, poverty is on the rise in Black America. 1 out of every 3 Black children are currently growing up poor in the United States of America. So I say this to say that many people think of the movement for Black lives as only a movement against police brutality. But it's about so much more. And if you want to get to know about what the many demands that Black Lives Matter activists and organizers are making, you can go to the website where they published a almost 40,000 word policy platform on August 1st. And that website is movementforblacklives.action.org. If you'd like to get to know about these demands, about what we're asking for and not only what we're against, then go to the website, sign up, and you can find out about all that. In the end, I want to say that what connects Mumia Abu Jamal and the Black Lives Matter movement, what connects the older generation to the younger, is that in the spirit of Mumia, who has been fighting for his life longer than I've been alive, Black Lives Matter is really about one thing, and that's not allowing death to have the last word. Thank you.